On Health Matters Television for Life, raising a fit kid.
Are we ready?
It can be tough with so many things pulling our children off track. From screen time to fast food, it's a battle parents can win. See how as Health Matters looks at ways to make exercise fun and eating right enjoyable.
Good job, guys.
Join us for a kid-friendly lesson in getting healthy with information anyone can use. Right now on Health Matters.
Health Matters is made possible by our viewers, the Friends of KSPS, and by Providence Healthcare.
I'm Dr. Andrew Boulay, and when my wife had a cardiac arrest, I chose Providence because I knew that everything we needed for her complex care was available, from the emergency room to radiology to the nursing staff to the specialists we needed for her care.
I'm Tammy Bowers, and I'm the director of the Children's Hospital. And when Andrew broke his arm, I chose Providence. I knew he'd received the highest level of care, and rather than being a nurse, I could just be his mom.
Good evening. I'm your host, Teresa Lukens. We are back with another season of Health Matters and a timely subject for you as students head back to school this fall. Our focus is fit kids, from diet to exercise. Today, a growing number of young people are at risk for diabetes as well as other diseases. It is a battle, and one that is being fought by the members of our panel tonight, each one here with their own perspective. So let's meet them. Dr. Ponrat Pakprio works for Providence Adolescent Medicine. She is a board-certified pediatrician and adolescent medicine specialist. She is on the Health Advisory Committee for Spokane Public Schools, along with our next guest. He is Doug Wardell. He is the Nutrition Services Director for Spokane Public Schools and is also a registered dietitian. Stephanie Splater works for Spokane Public Schools as well. She is an elementary fitness and health facilitator, and she is based at Cooper Elementary. And Dr. Nalini Gupta is pediatrician for Group Health Cooperative, and one of her medical interests is pediatric obesity. And I want to thank you all for being here this evening. It's an important subject and one that needs to be tackled, and one that really needs to be addressed very soon because it's getting out of control. And Dr. Pakprio, let's start with you. What is the problem right now as you see it with our kids becoming heavier? They're becoming obese. They're also not as active as they used to be. Where are we headed?
Well, if you asked me that about 5 years ago, I'd say probably increasing obesity rates. Right now, it looks like those obesity rates are plateauing a bit, and I'm hoping that they will continue to plateau or decrease nationally. Long term for children, though, by the time they see me, they've had a decade of obesity. So add that to adulthood and their risk of increasing obesity as an adult, which predisposes them to chronic health conditions that we don't normally see in young people, but they are starting to have that: hypertension, cholesterol problems, diabetes, type 2, and then not to mention self-esteem issues and psychological issues related to bullying or being teased about their weight or worrying about their health, and family members also worrying about them.
And what does their future look like, Dr. Gupta, if we don't tackle this now, if we don't take care of the problem?
So it's very interesting because Dr. Pakprio and I see totally different spectrum of kids. I see the younger ones who go on to become the adolescents. And all the data that we have says that if you are an obese child, there are 80% chances that you're going to be obese or a severely obese adult. Where are we going with this? I think we probably are going to be the first generation in which the lifespan of our children will be shorter than ours. And you know, it's all related to the long-term outcomes of being overweight and obese over a long period of time. A lot of conditions that, like Dr. Pakprio said, we saw earlier just in adults are fairly common in 18, 17-year-olds. So it's not looking good.
It's certainly, a sad state of affairs.
Yeah.
I want to show a clip from a piece that both of our doctors are actually involved with. It's a documentary featuring our doctors and also a family that you're going to meet. It's called Supersized Kids. And we want to run a clip from that show so that you can see what some families are actually facing.
This is 12-year-old Caleb Helm. He loves playing sports, scouting, and playing music. Today, Caleb looks and feels great, but it wasn't always that way.
He was about 8 that he started to get kind of a little poochy belly on him. I figured, oh, he's just probably gonna have a growth spurt really soon.
Caleb did not grow out of it. By age 10, kids at school were teasing him and calling him fat.
He was a 10-year-old kid with weight of a 13-year-old kid. It was kind of off the charts.
Caleb's mom was also an overweight child. She knows firsthand what it can do to your self-esteem.
I really felt isolated, felt like I couldn't do some things because I was conscious about my body.
Psychosocial and emotional factors associated with a child being overweight are just as significant as the medical complications, actually. Most of these children do have low self-esteem. They have problems with being bullied at school and being teased, which causes some of them to be introverts, and it can be very devastating to them as individuals.
Every day he asks, does it look like I'm losing weight? Every day he asks. And, so I know he cares about it.
I guess no peer support because they don't maybe have a lot of friends, and so what makes them feel good is to eat food. So it's kind of a vicious circle.
And once again, that was from the KSPS documentary, Our Supersized Kids, and you can see that entire documentary a week from tonight on KSPS. That's September 26th at 7:30, and we certainly hope that you will also tune in for that important program featuring our two doctors. It breaks my heart to watch that clip. And Doug and Stephanie, both of you work within the school system. You've no doubt seen, the young man in that clip is bullied because of the way he looks. The parents are trying to work within the system, and it kind of starts not only at home but within the school system also.
Yeah. Children are going to continue to struggle with this, and in the Spokane Public Schools, we really work hard on inclusion and really getting kids to be accepting, and we talk strongly about bullying and anti-bullying policies, but kids are kids. And they can do mean, cruel things, and those wounds, psychological wounds, carry with you. You hear adults talking about, I remember that time in 3rd or 4th or 5th grade. So we'll continue to work on it, but families and kids need to make it a priority and a value, and it's a cultural value. It's not the school's problem, but the schools in our community need to be a part of the solution, and that's where, how do we do this as a community? How do we get together and start nudging little pieces to make a difference?
Well, exactly. So what exactly is the problem? Is it overeating? Is it lack of exercise? Is it all of the above? Is it, Stephanie, you see this being a fitness instructor and within the school system. Are kids just not able to play the way they used to, the way we used to be sent out the door to play all day long and get that physical activity?
I think that with it being a much more digital world, they have other things that distract them and things that they want to do instead. And so what we try to do is expose them to a whole range of activities so that they find something that they love that's active that they want to do outside of the 2 30-minute sessions that we see them every week. And so that's the goal that we try to work on with the kids. But I think it's definitely a sign of the times that they have a lot of options, but the options are not active options.
Yeah, not always getting up and playing and just running around being a kid, again, kind of the way we used to do it. So again, is the problem the food we're eating? Are we eating too much food? What can parents do? Where can we start when the child is born, basically?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that, because I think it actually starts prenatally. It's about educating our parents before the child's even born about what is a healthy lifestyle, what is a healthy diet for a pregnant mom, getting that physical activity in, and then carrying it through so that it starts at birth, with healthy food choices. And as a society, we could do a lot of things. We can look at our own nutrition and our physical activity and what do we do every day to make it a normal thing that we do and role model for our kids. And then in our communities, one of the things that I have worked on is advocacy with Step Up and Go, which is a community organization, but really trying to get the message out that everywhere in our society we can do this. And in our restaurants, in our grocery stores, you know, the message could be in the schools, in our offices, in our medical offices, at work. It's everywhere. It's all about our cultural attitudes about weight.
And if it does start at that point, then by the time Doug gets them into the school system and they're in the lunch line, they know how to make those healthy choices. That's what you face every single day when you're putting together menus. And you're also faced with, you've got federal guidelines, you've got budgets, and then you've got what will a kid eat?
Yeah.
How do you tackle that?
Oh gosh, if you can solve that, then
he lays awake at night with that
one. It's a social problem that's going to hit us in so many different directions, and it starts at home. When we get them, we're starting to do lots of nudgings. We've got a Harvest of the Month program where we're focusing on foods from local farmers and trying to promote those Washington foods. We want to connect kids to where their food comes from. But then we're working on portion controls. The new guidelines require us to do that. But then we get stuck with there's kids who do need more calories, and yet we're only providing calories that are moderate for an average student. And so trying to show what that looks like and struggling on both ends is a difficult plan. We have fruit and vegetable bars in every school, so they have choices. We're trying to give them multiple choices. And we know in our culture, I would love to go back to, we only get one choice and you just have the chili, or the chili.
Yeah.
But our kids are exposed to choices and they like that, so we're trying to provide really a variety of nutritious choices. And then what I really like to see happen, and we're doing it, is we're trying to create nudges to say, broccoli and vegetables are really cool. We're trying to talk about lean proteins and really market it so that kids understand this is the right thing to do and making it normal. But that has to happen everywhere. It has to happen in the schools. It has to. Mom and dad, they need to get out there, and they need, if they're not making it important for them, why would the kids do it?
Exactly.
Why?
Do we make the mistake then of saying healthy food? Does that put a stigma on the foods we want them to eat rather than just saying it's food? This is nutrition your body needs. Is it some, because we tend to set things aside. We tend to say, a hamburger from a fast food restaurant is not healthy, but this is healthy food. And so then the kid goes, well, I want the hamburger. I don't want the healthy food.
Well, and part of our culture is, part of the problem is we're human beings. And it's economics that's forcing two-income families to work, and they're having to work hard so they don't have time. It's free time for kids, and then they don't necessarily have the structure that we might have had. It's fear of security and safety and being out in the community because they just can't go to the parks and have a parks and recreation program. And so how our community buys in for all that. It's how do we take all those pieces and plug them back so that families are empowered. But in terms of the healthy, I think it's good for us to start talking about what is healthy, but as a dietitian, I believe there's no good and bad foods.
Exactly.
It's about moderation and portion control, but how do you start that? In Spokane Public Schools, we have taken hot dogs and tater tots off our elementary menu. It's not that a once in a while hot dog is bad, but we're trying to provide some nudges and modeling. So we're going to try to introduce more whole potato products. We're going to try to introduce new items that kids haven't seen before or as much. Part of that is our intentional process of nudging them into making better choices and being more conscious of the choices, because we make choices every day and the marketing we get hit with just smashes into us and we don't even know we're making the choices and we've been marketed to, and that's a huge cultural issue we deal with.
Yeah, and again, it's something we didn't have to deal with as kids, at least not on the level that our children and our children's children are going to have to deal with. Dr. Gupta, by the time a family comes to you, and Doug sort of touched on it by saying, some kids need more calories than others. And a family comes to you, a frustrated parent, how do they know if their child is headed in the wrong direction, if they're overweight, or if they're just sort of going through that stage in their life? And how do you address that?
I'm very glad that you asked this question, because in speaking with the families and in speaking with my colleagues, there is a huge disconnect between what we think a conversation should be like. So I think on part of the parents, they're afraid to ask that question, yet they're worrying about it because of the stigma attached to it. There's such a negative association with being overweight, especially if the family is overweight. And on the physician's part, there is usually a big, will I offend the parents? How do I bring it up? It all starts with actually just at the well visit, looking at the growth chart, and I it should be a part of every conversation at every well visit, whether it's at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, because this is not a problem that has an easy fix or a one-time fix. I think prevention is the key in this. So if we can prevent our kids from reaching that stage by very early education and just setting the norms as to what should be normal and healthy.
Because we're
and
so
change.
afraid that we're going to hurt their feelings, or we're going to, that whole body image issue is going to play into how they perceive themselves.
And the parents worry that they will trigger off an eating disorder if they talk about it, or make the child obsess about food.
So we're not talking enough about it.
We are not. I do not think we are talking. And if you actually ask the kid, and if you take the time to ask the children, they are thinking about it constantly. They're talking about it constantly. They're being talked at or about at school. The parent is thinking about it. The doctor's thinking about it. They're just not coming together to discuss it and address it. So I think that is a very important conversation when we look at the growth charts. I really urge everybody to go and discuss that with their physician. Where is the growth? Where are we headed? What is it going to look like in a few years? Is this normal or not? And just starting that conversation is a very big step to the treatment.
I would like to say a little something with the parents as a dietitian. Totally agree. Have the conversation. But parents, there are times when kids grow out a little bit before they grow up a little bit, and a little bit's okay. And since it's something that's over time, it's not like you have to hit it and cut it in half right now. So don't panic. I hear parents talk about my child and they have to be on this diet and they're controlling, and they'll even talk about us having even more controls than we already have in our meal program. And I'm very cautious because over controlling something and over managing it can have that negative impact. So address it, do it well, but let them know, I care about you, this is great, we're going to learn this together, and that process of, in a caring way, have the discussion, but not being heavy or labeling them, because you don't want to create the label that will create that negative spiral.
Exactly. And Stephanie, I'm guessing that these are conversations. Do you hear this among kids? Are they talking about this sort of thing? Do you hear this going on?
We do, and we incorporate health concepts into our fitness teaching. And today we were talking about body composition, actually, and it's always very touchy because we measure height and weight, and as part of our state fitness testing. And I said, and what are you made of? And we were just having a discussion. It was a 4th grade group. And the minute you say fat, which we know we need to protect our organs and all of the other reasons we teach them, you could just tell that they, oh no, that word, oh my gosh, we're going to talk about fat, where we're going to talk about what we're all made of and that it's important, but at the same time, we're going to also talk about nutrition coming up in a future unit and being active and how the balance. And I think that they're getting a little bit of a miscommunication on what's important and what they need to be thinking about. But they do talk to each other, and I think that it's important that we put out a positive message and that everyone is different and that everyone is...
There are different body shapes, different heights, different weights. Girls mostly concerned about it, I'm guessing?
I think definitely the girls have a heightened sense of awareness about their body image, but I'm seeing it in boys too, for sure. And especially with different media trends that come along, boys are concerned as well.
We want to also remind you this evening that we're happy to take your phone calls. Our panel here to answer your questions about your kids, your grandchildren, whatever you'd like to ask tonight. You can also send an email if you'd like and ask us a question directly to our panel this evening if you'd like to do that. Stephanie, I also want to talk about a kind of a neat program. I'm really fascinated by this. We started this year with all-day kindergarten within Spokane Public Schools. And when we brought that in, we brought in a new program that sort of ties in the curriculum with fitness. Talk about that.
Right. All of our all-day kindergarten students this year are fortunate enough to participate in what's called Lit Fit. And it combines, it's a 3rd session, so a 3rd half hour of fitness a week, and it combines literacy and math pieces with movement. And so these kindergartners who just came in are also getting some extra time with fitness and with practicing their letters and numbers and colors and different things that are a part of the kindergarten curriculum. And it's a collaboration between the full day kindergarten teachers and the fitness and health teachers. And it's a really exciting investment that our district has made in the importance of more fitness, more activity, more practice in their core subjects and combining the two.
Kind of describe how does it work?
Well, it's
Give me an example.
So the kindergarten class will come into the gym. It's a gym setting, and there will be stations set up, for example, and the fitness teacher has set up the stations. They might be hopping through hoops, hopscotch style. And then the teacher will put down letters that they've been working on next to the hoops. So as they hop, they're saying the letters at the same time. And we've seen in the 5 or 6 schools that have done it for quite a few years that not only do you have a better relationship with the kids because you've seen them more, but you now have a connection between fitness and the classroom, and it's been a very exciting thing to bring into the school district.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things I would guess too, that the kids don't even really
No.
aren't clued into what's going on here, and they're learning both. I love that. We have Florence with a phone call this evening from Spokane. Good evening, Florence.
Good evening.
Hi, what would you like to ask?
I would like to know when the home economics classes were withdrawn from the junior high administrative classes, and how come? If this is the basic need of all children, why was it withdrawn?
So your thinking is that maybe the kids were learning some more about food, nutrition, and cooking, and getting into the kitchen, and
You bet they were. And we had boys in our classes as well.
absolutely.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
In 7th grade. I took that class.
That's why
in
he's where he's at now.
That's right.
Do we know why those were pulled out of our school system?
I'm not sure they were entirely pulled. We have a middle school course called Life Skills, and it has much of the same curriculum that the traditional home economics course had. I'm not an expert on what's going on in the middle school curriculum, but I know that Life Skills is still a part of it and includes cooking and sewing and other life skill personal safety issues also.
Is that still at the high school level,
They
Doug?
do. They have foods classes, and they're still offered at the high school level. At the middle school level, part of what we're doing is that written, taught, and tested curriculum is the rigor is so much higher. And I challenge anybody, if you think you're smart, they're smarter than a 5th grader. Go take the 5th grade and see the curriculum that they're doing. It is so challenging now because we almost have the same number of minutes, and we're packing all this rigor in. So the focus and the amount of time we have to spend on some of those classes aren't as much, and I feel badly. The same with our fitness classes. Stephanie and the crew, they do a great job with the minutes that they get. If we had the building space and the funding, I would love to see us increase it, but we don't have as much funding. So I think that some of those non-core curricular pieces have been shortened a little bit, and that's been a pressure on our schools to really perform at a world-class level.
And then I found, anyway, bringing up my 2 daughters, that they were so busy, I couldn't get them into the kitchen. I mean, they were doing homework and sports. They didn't learn to cook the way I learned to cook with my mother. And so now they do not have those skills. You know, the microwave is their friend. And so there's also that problem too. And it's, again, finding that balance.
And I would share with you one of the nudges that families can do, and we need to do within our schools. We have a Chef Klink, that we might be seeing later. He's working with the Spokane Public Schools, is teaching families and kids how to do food. And we had a consultant and a dietitian student come in. They couldn't find any good curriculum on basic cooking out there that was readily available and usable for the right age levels. And so I think that this is an opportunity for us as our community and in the schools to make it more available.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, let's go to that piece now, because we've talked a lot about cooking now and getting the kids into the kitchen, getting hands-on, and that makes a huge difference when it comes to them eating healthier and cooking from scratch. Hi, we are at Hutton Settlement, where healthy cooking is a priority, and we're joined by LJ, the chef, that is going to be doing some cooking for us today. We also have Grace, who is 15 years old, and we have Gabe, who is 11. They're going to be assisting us. So we've got 3 different recipes we're going to do. What are we making?
We've got some fun, easy recipes that kids can do in their own kitchens with their own 2 hands, and they're very healthy, and they're fun, and they're simple ones that we all know and love. One, we're going to do meatballs. Of course, it's always good. Main course on quinoa pasta, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but it's just a noodle. And then we're gonna serve it with a mixed green with ranch dressing. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Sounds good? All right. Well, we're gonna start by chopping up some of our vegetables for our marinara sauce, which is also just a what sauce? Who knows? Spaghetti sauce, exactly. Yep, it's just a red sauce.
Now your marinara sauce, this is something you could actually throw any variety of vegetables into, couldn't you?
Absolutely, and we like to call it stealth health. So if you've got vegetables you can throw in, like zucchini or eggplant, and you puree it all in, well then you just have extra nutrients and extra value of that food contribution to you. One of the things I hate is when people put sugar in their tomato sauce. And the reason,
why do they do that?
Well, because tomato has acidity. So if you don't cook it long enough, or if you don't put natural sugared ingredients such as carrots in it, you have to add something to balance that out. So instead of having that, instead of having sugar in there, well, we just put a little bit of carrot in there. And I just chop it up. So we got this beautiful sauce going. What are we gonna serve it with? We're gonna serve it on top of quinoa pasta. It's an interesting little like millet that comes from the Andes Mountains, and it was worshipped for 5,000 years because it has so many wonderful amino acids and different things in there that your body needs. But the cool part is people that are gluten intolerant and can't have regular pasta can have quinoa pasta. Okay, Grace, we've got this awesome, wonderful salad dressing that is easy and flavorful without it being completely unhealthy for you. I would like you to put half Greek yogurt in there. Then we're gonna put in half sour cream, and then let's put half that mayonnaise in there. We're gonna put just a little bit of vinegar.
Splash.
Just a splash. Put a little bit of that buttermilk in there. Fresh herbs always enhance the flavor of everything.
So easy to grow too. You could have a couple little pots of the chives, you could have fresh basil.
They're just a flavorful weed pretty much. All right. And let's put that lid on there and let's see if we get it shaken up. Let's see how our consistency is. All right, shake it like you mean it. Yeah, yeah. All right, we want to get a good shake on that. We got some beautiful greens here. All right, we've got some ground pork and we got some ground hamburger. We've also got 2 eggs, and I'll let you both crack one of those right into there. We have Parmesan and we have breadcrumbs that we're gonna mix right in as well. I'm gonna cut up a little bit of garlic and onions to put in there, but of course, Italian dinner needs a little Italian seasoning in there as well. We're gonna put a little pinch of black pepper. All right, I need you to get both your sets of hands in there and just squish it all around, mix it all up. Can we dive in there? All right, on.
Okay, now we get to the best part. We get to sample what we made.
Absolutely, dig in. Let's give it a try. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Tell everybody what we've got here again.
Okay, so we've got a basic marinara sauce with lots of fresh veggies in there. We've got meatballs with a little bit of pork sausage and quinoa pasta. And of course, our beautiful mixed greens with a big flavorful ranch dressing that is healthy for you too.
Okay, I think it's wonderful. It's very flavorful. What do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful.
You think it's good? This is something you'd like to sit down to dinner to?
Cool.
Grace is chewing. That's a good sign.
Oh, love that. Look at that big bite out of the meatball. That's the way it should be right there.
And we want everybody to be able to try Chef LJ's recipe, so we're going to post them on our website at ksps.org. And it's wonderful. Thanks so much. And thanks, guys. Thanks for helping out. Let's eat. And once again, the 3 recipes that we featured will be on our website at ksps.org, and they were delicious. I'm a new fan of quinoa pasta. I had no idea. And Dr. Pacrio, you said you've eaten that before.
Oh, absolutely. It's high in protein. It's a great source of protein for young people. So yeah.
Yeah, very delicious. And Doug, talk about what we were seeing nutrition-wise on the plate there.
Oh, you know, they've got their fresh vegetables. Condiments can carry emptier calories and not necessarily what you would need, but it's good to have some good flavors. So he mixed half with the yogurt. You can have non-fat sour cream. You can substitute some things, but great flavors then for the salad. He's got his meats in there, but not, a meatball, not 10 meatballs on there with a pasta. So, and the plate, what's nice, that my plate is the new portion. Part about what we need to teach our families is that portion control. That's a big deal when we're talking about eating. So having a 9-inch plate, not a a 16-inch plate and then filling it. You're looking at more vegetables and fruits and a whole grain pasta and a little bit of protein is a great way. So that, I mean, that was a nice portion, nicely laid out, well done. I would love to see more families, maybe not every night, but it takes a little time. But once you've done it for 6 months, a year or so, you build these patterns where it doesn't take much more time to do a recipe like that. Once you've built some basic skills and the kids can do it, they're really more capable than you give them credit for.
Well, and what's great too is when they do get hands-on, they want to eat their cooking.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times you're going to find that kids, when they're in the kitchen and they're helping out, they'll eat things that they wouldn't have ever eaten before if you just put it in front of them because they help prepare it.
Yeah.
Or grow it.
Yeah, or grow it and get involved in the process. One of the other problems that we have is that, again, as families, because we're busy, is that we're not taking the time to sit down and really enjoy our meal. And again, it has a lot to do with, the portion control and really taking the time to digest the food, and we're eating too fast and getting too many calories. Is that the case? Yeah.
Almost always.
Well, and I would just point out for parents, here's the deal.
Yeah.
If they want better relationships and better success for their kids, and I'm blanking on the statistic, but it's something like 30 to 40% or more better relationships and connection with kids for families that just sit down and have dinner 3 nights a week. And so, because it's communication time, it's I mean, that's trying to shut the screens off and have some fun with it. So that's a huge relational benefit. If you want to know what's going on, I know they may shush, but take the time to sit down. It's going to be beneficial for everybody's relationship. And then, you need to get rid of some of your social engineering at home. Get rid of the quick, handsy, higher calorie stuff, the chips and things. Put out the cucumbers, put out the carrot sticks, and you say you can have any of this you want and make it easy to get to. But make those better choices easier, and then the not so good choices, they should be once in a while, they should be gone. They should, because if they're in the cabinet, I'm eating them too.
Right, and if we're setting that standard at home, then when we send them out to friends' homes, and it's going to be a little less, a little easier for them to make those choices. And again, starting them early. On a previous show, we talked about some of the injuries that we're seeing in kids earlier. A lot of it having to do with the condition they're in. A lot of it having to do with the fact that they're singled in on one sport. And that's something else our society has kind of gotten into, is that they're not playing a variety of sports, they're not interacting in different ways and using those different body parts. Are you also seeing that in your practice?
Chronic overuse injuries, is that what you're referring to?
Exactly.
Yeah. You can see that in some young people. And I think also just actually being deconditioned also, if you're not in a sport and you try to do something that your body is not quite ready for, or the weekend warrior type of thing, you can suffer injuries there as well.
So again, trying to get kids into a variety of activities, get them involved in different things. Staying consistent.
Well, one of the things, and I'll let Stephanie speak to it, but our program is about consistent and persistent fitness, regular exposure, and our athletes, they're better off if they've had a broader exposure to multiple things, because it's lifetime fitness. They teach lifetime fitness in our programs. So it's not just battle ball. It's not the 10% of the kids who are going to be successful anyway, throwing the ball at the kid who had the glasses. And so I'll let Stephanie speak to it, but our program is great about lifetime fitness.
I think our goal every day is to try to find something that they will enjoy doing. We mask it by saying, this is PE class and it's going to be fun, and of course it's going to be fun, but we really are trying to expose them to a variety of activities, from dance to team sports to fitness center type activities. We try really hard to show them that there are lots of options for them.
We mentioned in the open of the show too that type 2 diabetes is becoming a chronic issue, really. It's becoming a huge concern. At what point does a child, or where are they getting to that point when it becomes critical like that?
So the question is?
Well, I'm wondering, a child's going along, we talked about some of those body issues, and just the ebbs and flows of how they're going to grow. But at what point should a parent start to become concerned that this could become an issue even before they come to you?
If you're thinking about, is my kid overweight, then it's a concern. As a parent. As a parent. And having said that, I know that in today's world, the norms are changing. I see a lot of kids who are healthy, whose parents come and say, he doesn't eat, he's too skinny compared to everybody else. So keeping in mind those norms, if you're concerned, and you bring it up with your physician, I mean, we do labs to check for things. When you're in that obese category where your body mass index, BMI, is above 95th percentile, you're well on your way to having metabolic changes, which can then predispose to, abnormal lipid profile. The cholesterol is not normal, your insulin is not being produced and responded to the way it should in the body, which all set the stage for diabetes. So I think to answer that question, as a parent, if you are thinking that could this be a problem, don't sit on it, don't think about it, just go talk to your doctor.
And start you can reverse the process.
Absolutely. If you do it early enough, you can absolutely reverse the process.
Where do you begin? As the doctor, as the physician, and as the patient, how do you tackle that?
Well, as a doctor, we start, and I'm going to go off the topic a little bit because I keep hearing about we as a society need to do this, and we as a family need to do this. Intervention needs to be at so many different levels that I think we as doctors start with the basics as far as, just what does the family look like? Just getting and knowing that a little better.
Because you can't just change the child.
You cannot, you can absolutely not change the child no differently than you can ask the kid to treat his own asthma.
That's an excellent point.
You have to understand and be cognizant of the limitations. The child didn't get to that stage by himself or herself alone. There was a whole lot of things that contributed to it, and those very many different things that contributed to it will need to be reversed for the child to fall back. They have very little control in their lives, our children. We control as adults and as much
as well we should.
Yeah, as well we should. And the key is the realization that as adults we need to act, as parents we need to act, as teachers we need to act, and then on a broader level as community. So just having that conversation and coming to that point that something needs to be done about this issue, and not shoving it under the rug, not pretending it's not there. Well, he or she will grow out of it. They might or they might not, but it's not the risk worth finding out.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Pacrio, you touched on the fact that this child's life will be significantly different, for them, a much bigger challenge if you don't get a handle on it when they're children. Kind of walk me through that. What will that child's life look like if a parent does say, well, that's just the way they are. I guess they've got diabetes now for the rest of their life.
Well, then they
what
have
are
to
the challenges?
Then they have to come see the doctor. They have to come see me.
A lot.
Because if they develop complications related to their weight, they will need to go to the doctor to have labs drawn, to have their heart checked, to discuss their weight and other health issues. So those are some of the complications. There are other complications as well that are not as easily identified. There's weight bias in hiring. There's issues with marriage and relationships. There are a lot of other things that weight can affect in the long term. And it's not that every overweight or obese person is going to have an unhappy life, is going to be teased or bullied or sad or whatever. But there is a higher risk. There's a higher risk of medical complications. And so setting the stage for a healthier lifestyle when they're younger is incredibly important to help them develop those habits so that later on in the future they are not continuing to have these problems. A significant portion of young children, adolescents, as they get older, will continue to be obese when they're adults, and severely obese kids will be severely obese adults. It's very, very difficult to get that weight down without starting early.
How do you put a child on a diet?
Well, it's not a diet.
First of all.
Thank you. I learned well.
I was playing devil's advocate
yes.
there. Yeah.
It is not a diet. It is a family-based approach, which everyone has spoken very well to. It is a change in your family's lifestyle about what you put on the dinner table and how you incorporate activity at home.
Yes.
Don't use the D word.
It is not a diet.
Okay.
Healthy eating plan. Healthy eating plan.
Yes, a variety, a balance. Don't say diet in front of your kids. It's okay to say, I am worried about my weight, but I am doing this to be healthier. Role model it for your families, your children. You know, I am eating more apples, I am eating more vegetables, I am going out for a walk, come out with me. You know, I also work with eating disordered patients, and so the messaging is so important in how you say it. Children see what you do, they will do what you do, they will act like you, you know, and so as a parent you have a significant amount of power and control in that situation of saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. Your kids won't always listen to you, they're not always going to follow what you say, but they're going to see what you do, they're going to hear what you say, they're going to remember that. Someday it will come back.
It will. I remind my children
Yes.
that all the time. Yeah. We've received an email this evening with a question from Kathy in Spokane. She says, are there foods, vitamins, minerals, or heavy metals that affect how our bodies collect fat? That's interesting. Doug, do you know if that's the case?
You know, I'm behind on my research. I know that certainly you need to be careful. Fish is a great food to get, but some of our lakes and streams have higher counts of heavy metals, mercury, and you need to moderate some of those pieces. And so if you get too much, you could impact some of your vital organs, but I don't know of any that are dramatically impacting metabolism, if that's the specific question. I don't believe there are any, to my knowledge.
Dr. Gupta, are you aware?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a metabolic issue. Being overweight or obese is a metabolism related problem, but so far no one thing or a combination of things related to diet or what we eat have been shown. There are things that are being talked about, not proven yet. So the artificial sweeteners, the certain kinds of fats that tend to make you more prone to seek those foods again, but not in particularly change your metabolism to accumulate more fat.
But I would touch on this, and this is where there's so much good research and data, and we have the ability to take the data and then look and see, you know what, some of these, we're not just talking about what's good health, we're actually talking about optimal health now, and there's thyroid issues and hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, and going to see your doctor to have some of these tests taken to find out, you know what, in this area we're pretty low in vitamin D. So a vitamin D supplement's probably a good thing to do. Please see your doctor, your dietitian to find out what that level would be. But you don't get a lot of sun, and we do have vitamin D supplementation in our food, but it might be a good piece. Low thyroid is a common piece for depression, and so being able to have those pieces checked out. So if you've taken a metal that impacts one of your organs, which is possible, it can impact your mood, your health, etc. And we've got some good data. I just encourage people, there's a lot of anecdotal pieces out there that might have, and if you believe strongly enough, you know, hats off to you if it helps you, but see your doctor, really because there's some doctors out there and dietitians that are really looking at the research saying, you know, there's some implications, but this is pretty solid and you can try this supplement and see your doctor on that.
But if you see me, I'll tell you just eat real food.
Well, I was just going to ask, do you ever recommend any supplements?
Vitamin D, actually, because of those very reasons.
He's scoring big over here today.
And well, it's wintertime too, and seasonal affective disorder comes and whatnot. But you don't have to buy a supplement. You don't necessarily need to be on a vitamin unless you absolutely have a very skewed diet. But real food, balanced in the different food groups, you're going to be fine. And I would very much discourage the use of supplements to promote weight loss.
Yes.
I get that question all the time about what pill can they take, what medicine should they get. I'm
well,
sure
people
Dr.
want a
Gupta,
quick
you
fix.
get that too.
Once again, they want a quick fix.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way because you stop it and it comes back. And then, unfortunately, it could also cause damage to your body. So we don't want that. And back in the day, it used to be fen-phen and all those people with heart problems, death. No, your child's worth more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we need more activity too. We've touched on that. Starting the kindergartners is just a brilliant idea. Do you see programs like that coming into play as the kids get older, maybe bringing other programs into the school system that would be similar to that Lit Fit for the kids?
Yeah, absolutely. Doug mentioned earlier with their core subjects being such a high rigor right now, some of the fitness and health, some of the other classes are going away, and so what can we do to make sure that they're viable and that they're as important as the others, and that's by combining the two. So Lit Fit is a perfect example of how we can have it both ways. We can have the kids be active and then they're still learning at the same time. Both very important, of course, but we don't want to lose sight of their long-term health also.
I would love to see families find, and I'm talking to the parents now, find some things that they're passionate about or enjoy so that they can pass something beautiful on to their children. And it's hiking, it might be biking, it might be sailing, whatever, but getting out and being active. And here's the challenge, 5 days a week, 30 minutes, and this is the minimum stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But to make the time that they're moving and being active, and then getting their kids involved, lifetime sports, lifetime activities, it's so powerful. And then you can see kids when they get it, and it's not about getting the gold star, it's not about going to the Olympics, and I mean, and if they like that, great. But it's really about taking this on past 12th grade, past their 20s, and into their life of saying, this is something we do because it's valuable.
Yeah, and we love doing it.
Yeah.
You can create that passion early on for kids. I'm finding it now to be more of a struggle that my daughters are in their early 20s because they're out of school, they're not doing the activities, they're away from home, away from mom, and it's more difficult for me to encourage them to get to the gym or take a walk, or they're involved with other activities. So now I'm finding it more of a struggle than I did when they were children, when I could get them out playing or they were playing their sport. So what else are we faced with kids as far as disease other than diabetes and the thyroid issues as they become adults, or even at a younger age? You've touched on a few of them.
So there's arthritis. With younger kids, as they are growing, their joints, their bones are a little bit more flexible, and unfortunately sometimes when they are of a higher weight, that could cause hip problems. And so for some kids,
just too much for their frame.
Too much for their frame.
Okay.
So then they have to have surgery. Sometimes it causes the bones to bow a bit. Long term, that pressure on their joints can contribute to arthritis. With asthma, that is another one because it's harder for them to breathe. It's a little bit more restrictive, so it can worsen asthma symptoms if they already are prone to having asthma. We talked about the diabetes, that's a pretty significant one. Cholesterol problems, heart disease, heart attacks, risk for stroke in the future, liver problems. It affects your whole body, and the part that's hard is that it starts so young. And you can have a 30-year-old person who's maybe already had a heart attack or has been on diabetes medications for 10 years already. And I think as a provider, it's very preventable, and that I think is where a lot of it comes from, is that you can do something about it. You don't have to feel helpless about it. Just ask for help, like Dr. Gupta said. Talk to your doctor if you have a question, even a thought. Is this okay or not okay? And some of the kids actually will go to their teachers too, and the parents will approach the teachers and say, "Hey, I'm worried about my son. Is he playing on the playground very much, or what does he do? Does he just sit there and read? Is he in the corner? Why is he not playing? And I think teachers, they have a very good eye on the kids, and they can give you a lot of information.
Yeah, there's a lot of insight that can come into play in the school system when it comes to what kids are up to.
Exactly, and I think talking about recess also being really important.
Well,
recess
there was some talk, about eliminating recess to get more subjects in, but we don't want to do that.
No, we can't do that. And if we could stop for a minute and think about how important is it for them to get outside and be active? It prepares them to be better learners, and that is just as important. They're going to have a more quality education if they're healthier, if they're more prepared to learn. And recess is not fitness and health education, but it's
moving.
Very important. And if we can do everything we can to keep those opportunities out there for kids, they need to have that.
Well, that's a good stat too. We should be moving every 45 minutes to an hour. If you're at a desk job, and unfortunately I sit on my brains way too much, which it bothers
I'll second
me.
that, yeah.
But I physically have to get up and move every 45 to 50 minutes or so, and the same with our kids. And the Lit Fit Kids is such a great program. One, again, movement and learning. Kids learn better when they're physically active. You actually have better retention. There's great data that says they're better learners when they're moving. So parents, you can pick up on this in the sense of whether they go for a quick walk just around the block. I mean, sometimes they think, oh my gosh, I've got to start this program, I've got to do 100 push-ups, I got to do this. Well, okay, that's fine, but it can be these little things. There's also some great resources. There's resources in our community from the different health providers, from the schools. Call somebody, get some resources, because if you get some cool people or sometimes they can't hear it from mom and dad, so get somebody else. There's great resources that are low cost or on the web. get them into that, because you got to start making it cool. And it's more that there's more than one way to make it cool, and maybe.
Yeah, and maybe it's not mom and dad.
Yeah,
I know. We like to think we're cool.
Yeah.
Were you going to add something?
I was just going to follow up with what Dr. Pakprea said. I think we talk about all the physical illnesses that are followed as a result of being overweight or obese, and we very seriously undermine the psychological and the mental health issues that come from that. When you actually sit down and you ask a 6 or 7 year old how they feel about it, I have had more tears in my exam rooms than I care to have. But it is very significant. And as a society, when you see depression, anxiety, stress, it's all tied into that. So I just don't think we talk enough about the psychological and the emotional impact of being different, being singled out, and getting the negative messages, not just in the school, but at home, subconsciously as parents. If you've got 2 kids who look a little different, we need to be cognizant of how we portray this message, even as physicians. So
choose very carefully.
This is something that is very close to the heart for everybody who has struggled with it, and everybody needs to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a call from Brenda in Spokane. Good evening, Brenda.
Good evening. Yes, thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. We can hear you. What's your question?
Oh, my question is, so back to the part when they were talking about dieting, the question is, do they have do they recommend a way to deal with all of the images of hyper thin people that we are always shown as people that are, I guess, supposedly more perfect than we are in them? How do they think we should deal with that? I mean, obviously that's not a healthy body type either.
Again, it's about the messages that our children are seeing and having to confront on a daily basis. Yeah. Brenda, thank you so much for your question. And again, we're inundated. They're coming at us. There's models, there's images, they don't wear the, I don't wear a size 0, certainly. It's hard for an adult. I can't imagine what a child is going through.
Absolutely, and what they have to interpret that picture to look, which by the way has been photoshopped multiple times.
Absolutely,
Brenda, you asked a great question about what to do. And what I would tell you is sit down and have a conversation about it. If you see something on TV, a commercial, if you're flipping through a magazine and your child is sitting next to you, ask them what they think that picture looks like. What does that message tell you? And then talk to them about the truth about that picture or that thing they see on TV, about what does that mean? And is that real? No, it's not real. And for me, the bigger issue is that our weight doesn't define us. It's who we are as people, and really to build up on that resiliency and to help your kids be resilient about that, because we aren't defined by our weight, either too big or too thin. That's not who we are. It's what we do, what we think, our hearts, And so really helping build your child's self-esteem on those issues rather than just say, hey, you don't look like that person in that picture, you're not normal. That's not the message we want to send to our kids.
I would encourage that some management of some of the screen time, and I love what you're implying is that if you're talking about it, maybe you've participated, whether you're watching the show with your child.
Yes.
So I would, manage the screen time if you can. In fact, as adults we can, so shut down some of that screen time.
Less than 2 hours a day.
Yes, thank you, and then trying to participate in it. And the other piece I would love to say as a guy talking to the female population, it's devastating. And you need to have the conversation, dads and moms, the inner beauty, the thing that it's inside you is more valuable. That what you do as a person and the way you care about people, that's what's most important. And we can do this thing together, whatever we have to do to be healthy, but they need to get that message of being valued, and that they need to hear that from moms and dads often.
And it's a conversation you need to have at every age level.
Absolutely.
And reintroduce to them when they're little, and then continue to have that conversation.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Pacrio, you work with the opposite side of that. You work with some of the young men and women who have eating disorders because possibly they've bought into that image issue.
Yeah, a lot of it is based on low self-esteem and low confidence levels. And the big question I always get when I work with eating disordered patients is, where did this come from? How did it start? There is no one thing necessarily. It's a larger picture of what we see in society, how we view ourselves and coping skills and so forth. And I think that it's an interesting topic, and I have to say, you have to change your brain a little bit when you go from obese child to
But it all sort of comes from the same place.
It's a spectrum,
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's about disordered eating, and it's about how we view our bodies and the balance, and finding that moderation in between.
And not taking it to those extremes.
Extremes, right. And when you have a problem, to be able to reach out and ask for help right away. A lot of our kids, though, they won't necessarily come to you right away. So checking in with your kids often, and teachers, they actually do a really good job of that. They'll see a kid not look quite right, and they'll talk to them, and then they'll call a parent up, which I appreciate so much. And sometimes that's how the kids get to me, is that a teacher has called a parent and said, "I'm concerned about your child," and I think it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Keeping those lines of communication
Yes.
open with all of the people that are in your child's life, certainly very important. Well, we are quickly running out of time before we get to some last thoughts. We want to introduce you to a brand new feature right here on Health Matters. At the end of each one of our broadcasts, we're going to be bringing you an update on the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. We begin with a development in our own backyard. On September 3rd, Washington's Health Benefit Exchange opened a call center in Spokane Valley. Trained staff members are there to answer questions from Washington residents that are interested in signing up for health insurance. If you have a question, the number to call is 1-855-923-4633. And that call center is open Monday through Friday, starting at 7:30 in the morning and going until 8 o'clock at night. And of course, also you can check out the website that they've provided, which is excellent information also on that. And the next significant date for you to know is October 1st, and that is when sales of the new health insurance policies will go online. If you sign up for coverage by December 23rd, your policy will begin, as it should, on January 1st of 2014. If this all seems just a little confusing, and it does to most of us, then you'll want to join us on October 17th, when Health Matters will once again focus on the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And if you'd like to submit a question, please send it to healthmatters@ksps.org in an email. So again, some heavy topics coming up for next month. I want to get some final thoughts very quickly on the topic and just keeping our kids healthy.
Start early.
I like that. Doug? Oh, okay.
No, modeling, parents
All
and
right.
modeling, that they should be engaged and start setting that example, because their little nudges, their little examples can make a huge difference.
All right. And actually, we are out of time, but I think that sets a good example. Thanks so much for being here this evening, and thank you for joining us on Health Matters. I'm your host, Teresa Lukens.
Health Matters is made possible by our viewers, the Friends of KSPS, and by Providence Healthcare.
I'm Dr. Andrew Boulay, and when my wife had a cardiac arrest, I chose Providence because I knew that everything we needed for her complex care was available, from the emergency room to radiology to the nursing staff to the specialists we needed for her care.
I'm Tammy Bowers, and I'm the director of the Children's Hospital. And when Andrew broke his arm, I chose Providence. I knew he'd received the highest level of care, and rather than being a nurse, I could just be his mom.